Hi, I'm Sati from Mindful Island, and today I want to talk to you about a challenge all meditators encounter in their meditation practice: the challenge of the thinking mind. Most of us have already heard the analogy of a thought like a cloud, the instruction being to watch your thoughts like you would watch clouds in the sky, or maybe you've heard birds or some other aspect of nature. See them come in and then see them go with ease. This is definitely a nice way to think about your thoughts, but I want to suggest that this is only part of the story, as it fails to make the distinction that in fact not all thoughts are equal, just as not all clouds are the same. To expand on this idea of how to experience thoughts during a meditation practice, I'm going to use the analogy of being in a car driving down the freeway, something all of us have done at one point or another. In this example, I want you to imagine that you're taking a trip by yourself to a new destination that requires you to travel on the route of a freeway or a highway. Because this is a new destination, you have to follow directions to get there by way of road signs or Google Maps or whatever you like to use. And while you're driving, you're paying close attention to the directions, but you're not too rigid because you know that you may need to respond quickly to any direction that comes up on you. So you're also present. So you're not rigid, but you're also present. And this is because if you let your mind wander too far, you'll likely miss a turn. And the third thing you are on this freeway trip is open, because you are aware of the activities outside of the car, like the weather or the road conditions, etc., and how they may affect you. As you're following the directions to get to this new destination, you're not alone on the freeway. There are many other types of vehicles also on the road, driving at various speeds and with various types of drivers. And they're all going to their own familiar or new destinations, just like you. Cars pass by, and you notice them, but not with so much concern. You're in your own car, and these are someone else's cars. And just like the clouds mentioned before, they come and they go. So on this freeway, on this particular day, there are three types of vehicles. There are boring cars. Think like a Ford station wagon in a brown color and being driven by a little old lady. They're going exactly the speed limit or just under, and they're going places that they've been 1,000 times. So it's not very interesting. And then there are fast cars and big transport trucks. This is one category. And these are driven by dangerous looking people. They're going to casinos and strip clubs, and they're speeding in and out of lanes. They're moving recklessly about on the freeway. There's also a third type of vehicle, and this is a kind of vehicle that you've never seen before. It appears to float without wheels, and it seems like it's powered by light instead of gas. These vehicles are driven by humans that are glowing brilliantly, and while you can't make out their features, you're pretty certain if you could, they would be the most beautiful humans you have ever encountered. These vehicles are going nowhere in particular, and they're traveling at no set speed. They're out for a drive for the sake of driving, and they seemingly have no destination in mind. Now, as these cars of various types drive by, you don't worry too much about them. They come and they go, and you respond accordingly without losing your attention from the task at hand, following the directions to get to your new destination. The boring cars you hardly notice. There are so many, and they come and go without much attraction. The dangerous vehicles you see coming, and you keep a keen eye on them until they pass. If one stops in front of you, you respond by changing lanes. If one drives up behind you, you stay exactly where you are, knowing that if you overreact, then you could have trouble. And you let them zoom around you as you hold your position. When the beautiful cars drive by, you take a second look. You let your eyes linger, and you allow yourself to smile. This is how it should be in your meditation practice. You can think of your thoughts exactly like these cars. Your experience of the practice is the flow of the travel, and your practice is the directions, like the map or the road signs you're following. You can imagine all of the various types of vehicles are the different types of thoughts you may have. You don't want to grab them and you don't want to push them away. This is because, unlike how you are used to thinking about your thoughts, you no longer call them mine. Just as you don't call the other vehicles on the freeway yours. Since they are not yours, they lose interest. They are just thoughts, and thoughts are supposed to be inside of a mind. You already know this. It's the natural way. So now you can feel a little more relaxed about your thoughts. You follow the directions of the practice you're working with during your meditation time, but you remain alert and aware. It's like most of your attention is on the instructions, but a small amount of your attention must also remain on the road, on the conditions of the road, on the types of vehicles traveling, on the weather, anything you can think of. It's still with all of those things. You see that you have 3 types of thoughts. The first type of thought you have is a mundane thought. These are like the boring brown station wagons. They go nowhere interesting, and in fact, often they just keep taking you over and over again to the same place. And following them is getting pretty old. You've done it a million times. These mundane thoughts are things like what you have to do next, or what you're going to make for dinner that night, what so-and-so is doing, what time it is, how long you've been sitting, these kinds of things, on and on, you can imagine. And as you sit for your meditation, these thoughts come in and you notice them. So you don't ignore them. You notice them without being agitated. You see them for what they are and you let them leave on their own. Now, the thing to remember is they drive the speed limit and sometimes even slower. And there tend to be a lot of them in the beginning especially. But knowing this, when they come, you're not surprised. Another mundane thought, you already know. You simply keep your main attention on following the instructions of whatever practice you're working with, whether it's guided or self-instructed. The second type of thought is a dangerous thought. These are like the fast sports cars and big transport trucks. They drive recklessly and fast. They come in quickly, and so they can seem as though they demand immediate response. And in some situations, this is the case. But for the most part, if you just hold your ground, just like in the freeway example, and you refuse to respond too fast or overreact in any way, they go out just as quickly as they came in. These dangerous thoughts are emotional thoughts. They're filled with content about your value as a person. They're reliving past experiences, grief, loss, but they're also things like striving and competitive thinking. Any highly emotional thought that you can imagine, these are these types of dangerous thoughts. They can also be good, but highly emotional thoughts can take you one way or another. And something you may not know about them is that they drive very, very fast. They come in quickly, and if you don't do anything, they leave just as quickly. So knowing this, you want to handle them with care. You want to hold your ground as you continue to follow the directions, but you keep a keen eye on the danger that lurks in the formless nature of this type of thinking. You don't deny them, because that would also be dangerous. If you refuse to see them, then definitely they will slam on their brakes in front of you or rear end you from behind. So you keep a close watch with the corner of your eye, and in that way they can't get the best of you. Then you can just allow them to leave as they came. The third type of thought is a profound thought, and these are like the never-before-seen vehicles. They lead you more deeply into the heart of your practice. These are important thoughts. They come in lightly, and they often bring a small smile to your lips. They carry with them wisdom, and they have no speed. They have no direction. They come, and if you push them away, they go just as easily. So this is different than mundane or dangerous thoughts, whereas with those, pushing them away can actually make them more active. You've had this happen to you before. You try not to see the emotional thought, it just goes. But a profound thought has no desire to control you. If you don't want it, it just leaves. But if you embrace it, it settles into your being, and it opens up new lanes of wisdom on the highway of your practice. These thoughts cannot be described. Profound thoughts cannot be given to you. I can't tell you what they are. They must come from within. They always come from within. So if this is the case, how then can you know the difference between a profound thought and any other type of thought? Well, a clue is that it will be a thought you haven't had before, but it will be about something you've looked at many ways and many times before. So a new perspective, a new way of looking at something. When these thoughts come because they don't care to bother you if you're not open to receiving them, you have to allow them to be seen fully. And that's actually the case with all of these thoughts. But perhaps this time you shift a little more of your attention away from the directions, not all of it, of course, and you sit with this new thought for a moment or two so that you can make sure you're seeing it clearly, that you're seeing it correctly. And then you let it go because, of course, you're busy. You're in the midst of your practice. And this, my friends, is how you should be viewing thoughts inside of your mind while you sit in meditation. As I've described, it's an incomplete story to only discuss a thought as though all thoughts are the same. Each thought has to be dealt with in its own unique way. And as you do that, you have to simultaneously remain alert and aware, following the path of the practice you started out to do when you first sat down. A meditation practice should neither be rigid or chaotic. It should not be so that you're angry if you're interrupted. And it should also not be that you're so fully absorbed you don't notice if your hair catches fire. By approaching your practice in this way, you can relax some, knowing that it's not about eliminating thoughts. These are as natural to the mind as vehicles are to the freeway or clouds are to the sky. Let your practice be about understanding, about allowing, and about receiving fully the profundity as it arises without forcing or clinging or resisting. It's a delicate balance, and finding it takes time, takes practice. So you take your seat again and again and again, and you allow the experience to be what it is. You allow the thoughts to be what they are, and you leave each practice with a little more fertile soil from which the flower of your heart can bloom. It's not that the road of your mind is suddenly pothole-free or carless. That's impossible. It's that you learn to respond to any event with equanimity. Let that be the practice alone and forget all the rest. I hope this was helpful for you in your practice. I'm Sati from Mindful Island. May all beings be free.